France is indeed boosting the aid that it is sending to Ukraine in terms of fighting vehicles, specifically the AMX-10 RC armoured vehicle. It's something between a tank and an armoured vehicle, sort of with a heavy main gun mounted on a frame with wheels. Now, this follows quite a lot of criticism that's been coming towards French President Emmanuel Macron in terms of not giving Ukraine enough. Now, he is walking something of a fine balance in terms of trying to provide Ukraine weaponry and in keeping open a line of diplomacy with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Now, Paris, it has to be said, has already sent quite a lot. It's sent air defense measures, it's sent anti-air missiles, it's sent armored personnel carriers, rocket launchers, and indeed, last but not least, it's sent up to 18 Caesar howitzers, and they've been used to considerable effect on the ground from the very moment of their arrival here in Ukraine. Now, it does still have to be said that President Vladimir Zelensky has been pushing his Western partners for heavier fighting vehicles and main battle tanks, but even if they haven't yet been forthcoming, it is a sign of France's commitment to Ukraine as it's starting to head towards the second year of conflict. It's also we've getting indications that the United States as well could be considering sending Bradley armored fighting vehicles to Ukraine. This points to this drip feed of weaponry that has been coming in towards Ukraine, and indeed the abilities of that weaponry, which has been on the increase as well, moving up, getting more and more effective, and pointing to signs that these Russian red lines, in fact, may not, in fact, be red lines as such. There've been fears of this, some sort of Russian response, which at least for now hasn't yet been forthcoming.
Right, and France says that it is sending in the first Western armored vehicles ever delivered to Ukraine since the war began. What kind of effect is that going to have concretely on the ground?
Well, for now, it means that Ukraine will have yet another weapon in its arsenal. Now, it's obvious that the country is extremely grateful for anything that it gets. The AMX-10, it gives it a new capability. This is, as I've mentioned, it has a 105mm main gun, and it's a frame run on wheels. Now, it's designed specifically to be used for fast reconnaissance, but it's also a weapon that has teeth. It can take on other tanks. Specifically, you can look at what happened during the Kharkiv offensive when the Russian lines to the east collapsed over the summer, with Ukrainian forces being able to take very quickly vast amounts of territory. Now, it's that kind of speed that a vehicle like this will give them, and it's really it would come into its own in that kind of situation. Its weight is also likely to help. The winter so far has been remarkably warm. There's an awful lot of mud around that tends to bog down vehicles. The weight of that vehicle might in fact help. The other part that we need to mention is that it could well start pushing nations that have been on the fence about the kind of vehicles and fighting vehicles that they will provide to Ukraine into pushing forward on that front. Specifically, we're looking at German Leopard 2 tanks. Volodymyr Zelensky has been asking for those to be sent, that they haven't yet been made available. Now, in terms of being given a new system, it is something of a double-edged blade. You see, there's questions as to the training that will need to be taking place, and also the question of logistics. These vehicles are going to need supplies, they're going to need ammunition, and indeed they're going to need parts. But the Ukrainian military, they have already proven themselves more than capable of using what they've got to push the Russians back. And a battle-hardened military like Ukraine's is likely to experience little in the way of those kinds of problems.